Hi, my name is Craig Collins, and I'm the CEO of YesYouCanReadNow.com. And I'm here to talk to you about autistic kids and adults who are challenged with reading. You were just listening to a group of autistic women and actually high school kids that were in Scotland, and they were taught to sing a song, and they have a choir. It's the first autistic women's choir, and it's in Scotland. I traveled to Scotland, and I really enjoyed being in Scotland, and I met a lot of people who were dyslexic, and I taught a lot of people who were autistic. I want to talk to you about working with students who are autistic. Not every student who's autistic or has Asperger syndrome can't read. But for the ones who can't read, and possibly they have dyslexia, I'm not sure. I really don't know why. They are different than the people I teach that are dyslexic. But I have had an incredible experience teaching them. One of the people that I taught was a man named Harris, a young man who was 16 years old. He was in Minnesota. And when I taught Harris, he pretended that he could read, and he told me he could read, and I tested him, and he couldn't read any of the words in a 4th grade primer. He was 16 years old. So after I sat down with him and I worked with him, and I was teaching it without a video. I often teach it with a video, an online universal reading method. But this time I didn't have it prepared yet, and so I taught him myself. And within a little over an hour and a half, Harris was reading from a list of GED words, college level multi-syllable words, and he's using 475 words. And before, understand, Harris couldn't read from a 4th grade primer, and we have a pretest, and he wasn't able to read any of the words on the pretest. So there's a big difference in Harris. And then after that also, there was a huge confidence level that changed for Harris. And it was really, really, really impressive. His confidence level, his eye contact with me, his interaction with me was a much older person than he was when he began. And he even took me out and showed me his fort, which his mom explained he'd never shown anybody his fort before. He had 4 keys to open it, showed me everything that was inside. And then recently I heard from the family of Harris, of parents, and they let me know that Harris had graduated from high school. He went to regular classes, not special ed classes. He was going to go to college. He wanted to be a minister, and so he had applied to and been accepted to college. And he had a girlfriend, and he went to prom. And it means that he can emancipate. And when I taught him to read, and he was able to read those words, he read them for his mom, and he immediately touched her shoulder. And he put his arms around the right side of her body and pointed to the words that were, the list of words that were in her hands. And he read all the words, and she was quite moved by this experience and realized that Harris definitely had changed a great deal. Another woman that I taught her, she was 27 years old, and her name is Jenny, and her mom Kathy brought her to me, and Jenny was afraid of going outside and traveling and walking because she would get lost and the police would have to bring her back. And then she read at about a 4th grade reading level, and she wanted to read better, and she wanted to be able to not be afraid to go outside and get lost. So I taught her with the video, on a video. I wasn't in the room. I let her go through the whole video instruction. And she, after the break, there was a time, we have everyone take a 15-minute break in the middle of the reading method. And I told her I would walk with her so she wouldn't get lost. And she said, no, I got to do this myself, and I can do it, I know. And so she walked outside, and 15 minutes later, after I was praying for her to come back, she came back. And she was happy, and she was really excited, and she was really, eyes were big, and she was just really very, very happy. And before she had gone on the break, she'd read a 29-letter 7-syllable word. It was quite advancement for her. And she learned the exceptional sounds, and I came back after she learned the exceptional sounds, and she read 475 multi-syllable words. Multi-syllable words at her college level. And since then, she has expressed a possible interest in emancipating and moving away from her home, but she's best friends with her mom, so we don't know if that's going to happen, but it was a huge change. It was our universal reading method that changed her life, and that's something that we do. Is we invite people to move into their world in a way that it changes their life. And recently I taught a young man, his name is Dane. Dane, I think, is 12 years old, 13 maybe, no, 12 years old. And Dane loves Harry Potter. He dresses like Harry Potter. He wears glasses like Harry Potter. And he just adores Harry Potter, but again, I tested him, and he was able to read about a 4th grade level. I had difficulty with most of the words in our pretest, and then I put him on our video, and he went through the video. I didn't supervise him. I didn't talk to him. I just told him he needed to go through the whole thing on his own, and he did. And when he went away for the break after reading that big word, he smiled with me, gave me great eye contact. It's like he was 2 feet taller. And he went out, and his mom said sometimes, and his grandmother said sometimes he gets lost. And but he didn't get lost. He walked down the street, and he was in San Diego, and he was not from San Diego, and he had never walked that street before. But he was able to walk down and come back in 15 minutes. And then at the end, it was amazing. He read 475 words. Had trouble and challenges with different ones, but he was able to apply himself to each word. There wasn't a word that he didn't try. And each word that he tried, he was able to read. And he'd go bibliography, and he would go bibliography. And it would come to him, and it was obvious he had never seen these words in print before. But then when he would sound them out and he would say them, he realized that's what the word was. Audacious. He said the word audacious. And he knew what audacious meant. And it was really, really exciting. And the funny part of it for me was that I asked his grandmother, how's he doing? She said, he went home and read to me from Harry Potter. Yeah, like 40 pages from Harry Potter. He really was excited because now he could read about his hero. And before that, he had the book, but he wasn't able to read it. Then there's Julian. And, you know, there are people kids that are in school, and they're not diagnosed. They're not diagnosed as being autistic. And in Asperger syndrome, there's another thing. They're not diagnosed. Some students are, but some aren't. But they can't read. And Julian was a young man in high school, and he was being told he was going to be held back a year. And that means his basketball schedule, being on a team, he loved basketball. And he didn't want to have to be held back and not be able to be on the team with the rest of the students. So he came to me, and I took him into a park in Palo Alto, and he sat in front of the video and on my computer, and I went and sat in the middle of the grass and watched him learn the reading method on his own from afar. And then at the time when it tells him to take the break, he got up and he took off, turned around and went out the back way. I didn't talk to him, so I was hoping he'd come back, and he did. He came back and sat down and learned the exceptional sounds, and then again took him back to those words. I brought these 7 sheets of words for him to read, and he read every one of them like they were flowing off the tip of his tongue. And before, he was at a 4th grade reading level, and his teachers were telling him he didn't learn to read, they were going to have to hold him back in high school. And when I got done with him, we were walking back towards his mom, and he said, Craig, he said, you mean I'm not dumb and stupid? There's not something wrong with my brain? And I said, well, did you just read all those words? And he goes, yeah. I said, can the other kids in your class read all those words? He goes, no. Let's go show my mom. And so he didn't have to be held back, and he's gone on in school, and he's doing just great. Another and last person that I taught was a young girl named Shoshana. And she's a high-functioning autistic person, very much like Asperger syndrome, but a different diagnosis. And I taught her, and her mom told me today, she said, you know, Shoshana used to take melatonin to sleep, and after you gave her the reading method, she didn't need to take anything to sleep. So she was able to sleep. And she's been reading. They called her said that she was able to read and enjoyed telling the stories about all the different actors and actresses. That's her interest. And so they were very, very, very pleased. So teaching people with autism, teaching people with Asperger syndrome is an unknown, an unusual ability. And in 2.5 hours, I realized that means a lot to you. It's a very, like, do you believe me? I was very skeptical. And so I traveled all over the United States, into Canada, the UK, Hawaii, East Coast, West Coast, searching for people. And I found people, like I just mentioned, that had Asperger syndrome. And I was surprised that in 2.5 hours they transformed. They absolutely transformed. And then it seems like something took place in their brain, and we're exploring that in a brain imaging, a brain imaging study at a university in California, because we want to know more about it. We want to be able to tell you more exactly what's going on in this brain, because it's transforming, and it's transforming in this short period of time. So if you came on you're on this video, it's possible that I found you because you asked questions about Asperger syndrome and reading. I think that's really, really possible. So hopefully you're on this video, you're excited and impressed with what I'm telling you, and I invite you to go to www.universalreadingmethod.com, www.universalreadingmethod.com. And my name is Craig Collins, and I really enjoy teaching your son or daughter, or yourself if you have autism. I would really enjoy teaching you to read and teaching your family. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.